now I'm really curious, what is your expert like field? Like obviously you're a big reader.
Mhm.
What's your favorite genre?
Oh gosh. I mean, I read so much of so many different things, so I feel like there is
Hmm.
none. But I feel like more of an expert on like specific authors. Like I read a lot of Joan Didion, I read a lot of like
Mm,
Otessa Moshfegh.
okay.
But like I found this book in a little free library and I have like I think the way to get into a
Aw.
genre is like I found it like I also love classic Hollywood, so I found like a classic Hollywood romance novel.
Mm-hmm.
I found like a Halloween
Mm-hmm.
one, and so I love heist
Yeah.
stuff, so I found like two heist ones. So I think that's gonna be
Okay.
really fun.
That's so
Yeah.
fun.
Hello and welcome to Required Reading, the podcast that revisits the most impactful books from our childhood, but not this week because it is summer. I'm launching a new series about summer camp because I miss it. My name is Erin Bowles. I'm an actor and doing self-tapes, so I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm Erin Bowles, I'm 5 feet tall, LA based. I'm a writer, actor, and comedian, and I met my best friend at summer camp when I was 6 years old because her friend was locked in a latrine.
Okay,
Um,
the latrine, 10-letter Scrabble word as well.
okay, so we'll have to circle back to this because that's the way you refer to, there's so many different words
Uh-huh.
for a bathroom in the woods.
Hmm.
My guest today is Haley O.C. She is a comedian, actor, writer, internet personality, and lover of romance novels. Pisces Sun, Cancer Moon, and Leo Rising would make anyone reading the aforementioned say, duh. Just as she could as a child, Haley can finish a book she likes in less than 48 hours because delayed gratification is not for her. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such a delight.
Our book today is, but we're going to do it in a roundabout way. Our book today is from
Hmm.
2021, Sunkissed by Kasie
Mm,
West. I found it in a little free library maybe a year ago, and I saw that it was summer camp-ish, and I was like, good. I
yeah.
I need that. It's definitely inspired by Dirty Dancing. This is Kasie West's
Hmm.
14th novel.
Damn, Casey, I bet her pen is tired.
I know. And she like I was looking at her Instagram. She has at least two more that had been announced. And this is
Wow.
not her most recent. She's crowning on 20, I think.
Okay, well, I will have to check out because she did good.
What's your story with summer camp?
I only went to summer camp, I think like okay, well, like there's a difference between like sleepaway summer camp and day camp. I went to day camp like my entire childhood,
Yeah.
which I really, really loved, like the Park District day camp. And it's just like such a nice way to like meet kids who aren't your classmates. And
Yeah.
like, oh God, do you remember being a kid and you're just like, every time someone like, not like a kid, but like around like getting to prepubescent, like puberty and
Mhm.
stuff. And every time you're around someone who you don't know, you're like, that could be the love of my life. Like
Yep.
that might be my future husband. Like just every time in the, like when you're younger, you're just like, wow, that stranger could be it for me. So I love summer camp because I'm a romantic. And my sleepaway summer camp I really liked too, but there was heavy Christian undertones, which is
Okay.
crazy because like my mom and dad aren't religious like that, but I'd had other friends from my school going there. So they were like, oh, Haley will tag along. So I like love doing all the woodsy stuff and the outdoorsy stuff and the activities, but then they'd like make us pray before dinner and stuff. And I was like, okay, Haley, just like keep in mind you are
Mhm.
at a cult. So
Interesting. I went to day camp for like 11, 12 years. It
yeah.
was huge for me. All my camps were Girl Scouts. I'm a lifetime member. And I went to a 1 week sleepaway camp twice. And I just like the summer camp stories are unparalleled. Like there's
Hmm.
just so much of it that like every detail is crazy. I love the woods. I love all of it so much. So I was so excited to see something about it. And we were talking about this earlier. I am not really versed in the romance novel world, but you are. So I mean, what's your story with that
Hmm.
genre? What drew you to it? What's new? What's old? How do you relate to it?
So it's actually all pretty random for me because I had not, first of all, I hadn't probably picked up like a fiction book in like 6 or 7 years until one of my friends sent me a romance novel for my birthday 3 months ago in June, or it's June now, 3 months ago in March. I was like, oh, I'd heard about this author before. I'm not going to say who because I don't have many kind things to say. But I will say that like while she needs to take some like grammatical classes. She's good with the plot. And
Mm.
so I went through that book in like 36 hours. I was like, what's going to happen? I'm so invested in these characters. And then after that, I like got my library card and I've just been checking out like 6 to 8 books a month on the regular and like going through them, mostly romance novels, some recommendations from people, some recommendations from the internet. And then because like the library is such a vibe, I like to just go there and like look at books on the shelves and see what I think might be a romance novel and then like choose
Oh,
some off that. But it's like I'm a deeply romantic person. I love to fantasize about things. I love to romanticize people's personalities before I get to know them. Even to this day, I'm still like walking into a room and I'm like, so who's gonna have my baby? You know what I mean? Like who's the one? Because that's the only reason we go out, you know? But it's been a fun journey. And now I feel like because I've probably read about like 15 to like 25 romance novels in the last 3 months. And I'm like working my way through my first gay one. It's actually bisexual and I love it. Although
oh,
I will say this one is like so bad for the bisexual brand. It's like a 38-year-old
really?
woman and a 21-year-old hooking up. And it's like,
Ooh. You're holding
and
up
the,
Mistakes Were Made. I don't know the author, but I've listened to
Meryl
like a little
Weisner.
bit of that audiobook. And just remember it being I don't know. I love audiobooks, but I was like, not right now. I don't know.
Mhm.
But
Mm.
oh,
Oh,
that's
it's like
sad to hear.
it's a
Yeah.
lot from the jump. It's very horny, which is great. Like no one's ever mad
Good.
about that. But yeah, no, not great for the bisexual brand. I was like, ooh, representation. And then I was
Like,
like,
not that kind.
yeah, not that kind. But it's like now that I've read so much, I can kind of within the first like 30 pages recognize like what trope it's gonna fall into
Hmm.
because just like romantic comedies, they are so based on tropes like the friends to lovers
Yeah.
or like the mutual enemy plot where two people like have the same enemy and so they fall in love trying to get back at that person, the forbidden love, the best friend to lover. Like there's so many, and even though I like know what's going to happen and how
Hmm.
it's going to happen, I'm desperate to read the details.
Yeah. Why
Like
do you think that is? Do you think there's like it's partly the safety of I know where it's gonna go and then the excitement within that
mm,
safety? Why do you think you keep
mm.
coming back to this genre?
I think you're onto something. I do think it's definitely like like I'm not going to be surprised by the ending. So that's kind
Hmm.
of like fun, but I'm going to be surprised about everything that happens along the ways in which they mess it up and then get back
Right.
together. But it's also just like, okay, so this is like a really cheesy big stretch, but I was talking about this with friends and I was
Go
like,
for it.
it's actually kind of reshaping my brain reading all this romance novels
Oh,
because like it's putting more hope in there and like reminder that like all these good things happen in life amongst the bad things
right.
because they're all just like very based in reality and like in people's feelings and stuff like that. So it's
Hmm.
just kind of about the mundanity of life sometimes and then the beauty within that.
I
Which
love
like I said,
that.
it feels like a stretch, but like that's how I
No,
think it is.
I think that's absolutely true. And I think what's interesting is that I think romance is always looked down on because it is a largely feminine space and anything feminine
Hmm.
and female is inherently bad. Or yeah, that's the cultural perception, not me
Mm.
saying. But
Erin is signing off. Those are her words. Get the Chiron. We're gonna put it at the
oh,
bottom of the screen.
oh. I think like romantasy is so big right now. What's
Hmm.
interesting about you saying that it is about the mundane in the non-fantasy
Hmm.
romance. I love that you're finding more hope in that like escapism can still be
Hmm.
rooted in reality. I think is that's really neat.
Hmm.
Oh, man. What
Oh,
are some of
thank you.
your yeah. What are some of your like favorite tropes in this world?
I really like love the best friends to lovers, which like sounds like I have a best friend that I like want that to happen with, but I swear I don't. I just like, but I am like, I guess romantically a believer in like starting out as good friends with someone and then that growing
Hmm.
into something more. And then I also really love the like mutual enemy, like plotting together to falling in
Right.
love because I think scheming and then falling in love is so cute. And I also love the people who take time apart and then when they like get back together like things are where they're supposed to be because they like let each other grow separately type ones.
Hmm.
It's the beauty of all of them having the same like there's going to be issues no matter what in life and it's like and if you find that right person that like perhaps you guys will be like good enough to get through those issues if you're both mature
Wow.
and communicative and stuff. Yeah, it's just like a really it is a silly genre and I feel so ashamed all the time like reading my books and stuff like not just
Hmm.
reading them in public but like if it's popping out of my work bag and one of my coworkers comments on
Yeah.
it, or if like someone asks me what I'm reading, I'm like, oh, it's like a silly romance novel, but I'm reading this, and it's like, why do I feel the need to like talk down on
Yeah.
it?
It is bringing you joy. Why on
Yes,
earth is that a bad thing? Yeah.
exactly.
Even more than just joy, like already you have said so many incredible things about how it is reshaping the way you look at the world that
Mhm.
absolutely makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, because it's what you take away from the books. It's not like what the books are necessarily about.
Right.
Man,
Yeah.
we're getting philosophical over here. I'm loving this.
We just started. Here we are.
Exactly.
Were you like a big reader as a kid or a
Yeah.
teen? Yeah.
As a kid and a teen, like, I was definitely a kid who always carried around a book, and then, like, when Kindles became in fashion, I, like, always had my Kindle with me because I'm a person who prefers books, but I think what I loved about the Kindle was the anonymity of it. Because then,
Oh.
like, you don't have to tell people what you're reading. It's none of their business. This is my gray little slate, and it has my books on it, and don't talk to me. You know what I
Oh.
mean? Whereas,
Hmm.
like, but and at that age, that's what I wanted. Whereas
Right.
now I'm like, oh, books are a conversation starter, and I like that. I love when someone asks about my books. But yes, I was like nose in my book kind of kid. I was always at the library. I was as a teenager, I was obsessed with the Hunger Games. I read the
Hmm.
like entire series so many times, and then so much fan fiction about it.
Right.
PETA and Gale Forever,
All
you know
right.
what's up.
All right. All right. Did you read any romance or were you like drawn to that at all when you were younger?
No, I never read it when I was younger, but I
Mhm.
think it's like what I was drawn to within those stories, such as like the Hunger
Right.
Games and like I'm trying to think, it was like The Only Girl in the World, like a post-apocalyptic
Hmm.
thing, but like I feel like almost like unless you're reading a strictly fantasy or a
Yeah.
strictly like sci-fi type thing,
Mm.
almost every young adult book has a plot of like romance beneath the top theme.
Absolutely. Even Lord of the Rings has a romance in it. You know, it is a part of life. It's a
Yeah.
part of humanity and existence. It's always there.
That's so true. It's like one of the top 5 things humans do. Like we
Yeah.
all do it.
So why not? Yeah. I wanted to because this is not a book that I had never heard of this or seen this before. So I wanted to at least read the back of the book and then I think it misses a few things, so we'll fill that in. Um, Avery has always used music as an escape, but after her best friend betrays her by kissing her boyfriend, even her perfectly curated playlist can't help her forget what happened. To make matters worse, her parents have dragged her to a remote family camp for 2 months of quote fun. Just when Avery is ready to give up on the summer altogether, she meets Brooks. Mysterious, frustratingly charming Brooks, who just happens to be on staff, which means he's off limits. As the outside world falls away, Avery embarks on a journey of self discovery, and when Brooks offers her the chance of a lifetime, she must decide how far she's willing to go to find out what she wants and who she wants to be. The end. I would describe this book as like Dirty Dancing meets Camp Rock. Music is a big part of this book.
Mm. Yeah.
The sort of midpoint is Brooks works for the camp largely in the dinner band.
Yes.
Yeah, the kids that perform during dinner.
Yes, they have an
Um,
old-timey dinner band made up of teenagers to
of
perform for the
course.
entire camp, which is, all camps do that, sure.
All camps do that. Well, first off, this is like in Dirty Dancing, and I'm wearing a Dirty Dancing shirt. Dirty Dancing is huge to me. Like in Dirty Dancing, this is like a whole family, extremely
Mhm.
wealthy. So everyone has their own cabin, and it's definitely
True.
not, Girl Scouts slumming it.
Mhm.
So they have a dinner band, and Brooks has a father who's sick, so he's here to earn money, but he wants to
Mhm.
do music, so a big part of it is he's looking for signs. And calamity ensues. Avery helps him audition for this music festival, and that is the music festival is the big final piece where
Mhm.
he realized. And Avery, I thought one thing that was very interesting is that Avery's arc is figuring out what she wants. She has always been bending over backwards to be easy. She avoids conflict and she's sort of
Mhm.
figuring out like who am I and what do I want? How did you feel about that?
Okay, so actually when her dad so in part of the
Yes.
like, an earlier part of the book, which is, like, part of the catalyst that sends her on this journey of self-discovery, but her dad is, like, bragging about how adventurous and wild and, like, brave her sister is, and then being like, And Avery's great. She's reliable and she does exactly what she's told. And like, it's just, and he's not in any way saying it to like neg her, but like what the feelings it brings inside of her is insecurity
Yeah.
and sadness and like a want to change. But honestly, when I read that, I felt like a bullet wound too. Like I was as
Yeah.
hurt as Avery did, even though
Hmm.
I'm omniscient and I knew he wasn't doing it to hurt her. Like I was like, why would you say that? But I thought it was, and also I think there's a common theme in this world of dads sending their daughters unknowingly on a journey of
Yes.
self-discovery. Like just they like love to just say something that is so in opposition to who we are and then be
Hmm.
like, oh, I didn't even realize. Like that set
Yeah.
you off. But I thought it was beautiful. I actually did cry a little bit at the end just because it was like it is. And I mean, I think I see parts of myself in that too. Like I'm sure we all do like type a little bit of a people pleaser. And especially I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel in the beginning about like
Mhm.
reading a YA novel because I do like tend towards rather than young adults. I try to go for things that are about people in their early 30s or mid 30s or late 20s. Like even like the one I'm reading now that's kind of about like college feels like a little bit of a stretch, but this
Right.
one just like immediately transported me back to that age and all the confusion you feel about your identity and that's like the beginning of your like
Yeah.
self-discovery journey. That's not even like it doesn't end and start when you're like 17, 18. It keeps going. It's still happening. Like it keeps
Hmm.
going as far as I can tell until you die. But that's when like the first major shift starts and it was cool. It like made me wish for more for my younger self actually. Like wished
Yeah.
I could have had this kind of conviction and bravery and willingness to like put myself out there and change my life. And so
Yeah.
I was like inspired by this little teenager, this imaginary teenager.
Oh, I'm so glad. She ends up like the lead singer of the band gets a concussion and there's
Mhm.
infighting. The one moment that they do mention Dirty Dancing is the moment that changes everything because she goes, you know that song, I've had the time of my life, and she starts singing it. And they're like, whoa, you're a singer. And she has stage fright
That's right.
and near the end when the big, event is coming up, the band gets back together, they don't need her anymore, and she realizes like, "Oh, I actually want this. I
Mhm.
I found something not only that I'm good at, but that I want." And that
Mhm.
like it's okay to want something. And the big change is her going to Brooks, who at that point has like more or less become her boyfriend, and she's like, actually, I want this. And if that's okay, I'm asking for it. That's incredible.
It was. And honestly, like I was like, even at my advanced age, I like can't imagine doing that right now.
No.
Like I want to be that kind of like that's what I mean. I was inspired by this teenager. And I also loved like the fact that in the book, her younger sister, I don't have any siblings, but it was really
Mhm.
cute to see like a sister relationship reflected. But she'd like been doing a documentary on the band and like following the whole journey and stuff. And like even though her sister singing for the band rather than the original singer kind of like uprooted her documentary, although like I didn't get that angle because I was like,
No.
she can easily spin it into an even better documentary,
Yeah.
but whatever, we're Hollywood brained. But she like still went against her own interests in support of her
Mhm.
sister. And
Yeah.
like it was it's cute to see how sisters, and I really feel like this reflects in all women, can go from like being like I hate you one minute to being like I love
Mhm.
you and I want you to live your best life the next minute, because
Yeah.
that's what relationships are. And it was crazy to see them like supporting each other and being like, hey, I'm proud of you for your YouTube stuff. I can't believe you
Yeah.
have all these followers. Like she'd underestimated her as well. So it was like we can always surprise the people closest to us.
Yeah, that was a really beautiful arc. And there's just like so much, I think, a great thing about, and it doesn't always happen or successfully come through, but I think it's great when adults with emotional intelligence write
Hmm.
for kids and are able to kind of lay that out,
Yeah.
because Lauren, her sister, might seem vapid and might seem
Hmm.
really surface level, and yet she is thinking about her sister. She is keen and aware and successful. And Avery, the older sister, is watching and making sure older boys aren't flirting with her. And there's
Hmm.
that love is never really questioned. And
Yeah.
when staff and campers aren't allowed to have relationships, and so there's a moment where Lauren is frustrated and tells the parents that Avery's been sneaking
Hmm.
around. And pretty much immediately Lauren is like, I shouldn't have done that. And I was mad in the
Yup.
moment and I'm really sorry about that. And Avery's sort of like, yeah, I hate that you did that, but like I had it coming. And that's
Yeah,
incredible. Oh my gosh.
it is. And I was like, yeah, there were definitely moments where I was like, I don't know if, I mean, it's been a while since I was a teenage girl, but I don't know if teenage girls are this mature. But you know what? I would love to see a world in which that is like how quickly and they could resolve things emotionally while just like being honest about how they felt and how things affect them.
Yeah. And it was really interesting to have this kind of frame narrative of Avery finds out like right before she goes to camp that her best friend had kissed her
Mm,
boyfriend. So she breaks up
mm-hmm.
and her best friend Shay spends the summer trying to get in touch with her because there's no phones and it's, you know, in the middle of the woods. And I think that was really nice that like the structure of the narrative and then Brooks himself continually
Mm-hmm.
gave Avery the opportunity to like opt in. Like, are you ready for this? Do you want to do this right
Yeah.
now? That was everyone was just really nice in this book.
They were like really, really nice. I was like, okay, these are like teenagers I wouldn't be scared of and cross the street if I saw them. But I thought it was very sweet the way that like even the way like that she at the end, she's like, do I want to lose her forever or do I want
Mhm.
to keep her in my life and try to start new? And like she chose start new and I'm like, that's crazy, girl. Like watch your back and
Yeah.
watch your boyfriends. Like keep Brooks away from her because I would not trust that girl.
Yeah.
But some people have more forgiveness and trust in their hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I also this is the summer between her junior and senior year. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
that is definitely, especially in the early parts of the novel, really feeling it of like this is our last summer as a family together.
Yeah.
And so I sort of like I got to a point really early in my senior year of high school where I like looked around and I was like, I don't like any of my friends actually. I liked like one of them, but I was like, I don't like you guys. But maybe it makes more
Yeah.
sense since I have like 100 days left here to just keep rolling with it. And then as soon as we graduate, ghost
Mm-hmm.
everybody and do my
That's
own
so
thing and live my
true.
own life. And so that
Yeah.
I don't think it's like conscious there. I think it is like I agree. She's being too nice and
Mm-hmm.
too forgiving. It's definitely something I understood. It's very strategic.
That makes sense. I like your perspective on that. 'Cause that you're right. She's playing the game. She doesn't want to go back to school and have like no one for her last year. She'd rather
Yeah.
have this girl she has to keep an eye on than
Mhm.
nobody. And
Yeah.
also like I did love the little side plot of well but first I loved the major plot of like no phones being in use at the
Yeah.
camp. I thought that added like such a great layer. I actually don't mind reading text messages in books. I think it's kind of fun sometimes and like gives your eyes a break from like staring at the
Mhm.
little letters to see some stuff. But yeah, I just feel like stories are so much more interesting when phones don't exist. Like, and I mean
Mhm.
that about like movies and TVs too. Like, part of why I love a period piece so much because
Yeah.
when cell phones don't exist, like everybody's forced to communicate and or not talk to each other at all.
Yeah.
And so where we've got these all these weird blurry lines with social media and texting and all those things. But I also love the little like Kai and Lauren, will they, won't they, to the
Mhm.
reveal that like Kai was actually hooking up with one of the other camp counselors. Like that was really cute. Like, and that also just meant like he was just being sweet with her that whole time.
Yeah.
Like he was just looking at her like a little sister. He wasn't like being weird or creepy. And I was like, these people are also nice.
I know. I just love like the ecosystem of a summer
Mm-hmm.
camp. What were
Yeah.
like some of your favorite summer camp like isms or elements that came out in this book, if there were any?
Hmm. I really loved all like the different activities they
Yeah.
had. Like part of Avery's journey of self-discovery was like just trying new things, whether it was like the obstacle course or like a painting class. And like you rarely get that many opera like in such a small window, you rarely get the
Mhm.
opportunity to try that many new things. And so that's like something very special about summer camp is where you get to like it is like a place for self-discovery and a place where you
Yeah.
get to like explore these things that otherwise you probably wouldn't like go out of your way to try at home. Like you wouldn't spend
Yeah.
money on a class, but since it's all already included, like you might as well go and do it. That and also like the outdoorsy aspects.
Mhm.
Like the rock slide reminds me of I think the summer camp I went to like when it rained. And like maybe I'm literally just incepting myself with the memory of this book slash other people's memory, but I swear we had like a mudslide that we went
Mm.
down. And
Oh.
it was disgusting and it was gross, but like it was so much fun because you're like 10 or 11 and you just don't
Yeah.
care about being that dirty as long as you're like screaming and laughing and having a good time with everyone.
Yeah. I feel like that I love that. I feel like every camp has like its defining physical feature.
Yeah.
Like the rock slide, like I went to two camps, one for day camp and one for sleepaway camp. And the sleepaway
Hmm.
camp, is right on the Potomac River and has it's called a
Ooh.
poo tree, Pooh, because
Okay.
you can stand inside of it. It has a hole, and then you
Aw.
can fit like 15 little girls inside of this giant tree. So it's like
Like
Winnie the
Winnie the
Pooh.
Pooh.
Exactly.
Aw.
The other camp that I went to, way more. It's in like the backwoods behind a little tiny church. So you go over
Oh.
this giant hill and then
Mm-hmm.
go behind like a huge cornfield. So like when
Oh.
you'll drop off your kids at camp in the morning and you can watch them
Mhm.
disappear into the corn and go away. And I just think that's so nice. It's the little things and it's
Yeah.
like texture. It's great texture.
It is. It adds like those like visceral layers that you can like kind of like in your memory transport
Mhm.
yourself back with. You're like, oh, I
Yeah.
remember the feel of this and the touch of this and the smell of this. It was so nice. Was your sleepaway camp also like it wasn't a family camp, right? It was like a
No.
kids camp. Okay,
No, it
yeah.
was
So
just a
was
kids camp.
mine.
Yeah.
So it's like that's also the exciting part is like
Yes.
I think was reading this book and I was like, I didn't have that kind of family. And I
No.
like I'm more of a Brooks than an Avery. So like
Mm.
I don't know how I would even feel going away to camp with my family, but I loved going to camp alone or with
Hmm.
like one person I knew from school because I was like, whoa, like this is me outside of my family unit.
Right.
Like this is just who I am, figuring it out.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
even though I came into this book like wanting, like so excited about revisiting summer camp, I definitely
Hmm.
was with
Yeah.
Avery and Lauren sort of groaning on like, we're all gonna be tie-dyeing t-shirts together for 2 months. That
Hmm.
does not sound fun. It's definitely not something my family would ever do. But I mean, I loved summer camp mostly for the people. Like I had friends that I wouldn't see anywhere else except for summer camp.
Yeah.
But there's, I think a beautiful thing that comes out throughout the novel is that structure allows you to kind of like opt in and opt out. There's events we
Hmm.
can do together, and then we can not talk to each other for a good 12
Yeah.
months. And I think that's probably ideal.
Yeah, because that is like just too much time with your family. And I mean, like even like as a kid, I remember being like going out to your cabinet energy and be like, oh my God, these people again. Like go to sleep. I don't want to talk anymore. Like we just spent all day doing
Yeah.
activities outside. I'm tired. Like I'm not giddy anymore. I've been with you
No.
guys for like 6 days straight already. Like get me home.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I only went to sleepaway camp twice, and I think the second year I was in a four-person cabin, and the
Mm,
three other girls like all lived on the same street, had known each other since birth,
damn.
and
Oh,
I was so anxious, so socially awkward. I was like, this
yeah.
is hell. And it wasn't like they were mean or anything. It's
Yeah.
just there's only so much you can do in 6 days or something.
Especially when like they've already
Yeah,
bonded. They have a soul
exactly.
bond, it sounds like.
Yes. But there's just so much I love about camp. I love the songs, I love the activities. I love
Mm,
I love when it rains at camp. And
yeah.
it's just but I still I'm like, what is it that makes that so magical? And maybe there's no one simple answer.
I also think a big part of it is like the lack of adults, period.
Yeah.
Like at my camp, most of our camp counselors were like older teens.
Hmm.
They weren't fully fledged adults. And obviously, like there are fully fledged adults like running the whole thing behind the
Yeah.
scenes. But to tie this back to another book that I saw
Hmm.
you've done recently, I feel like there's kind of a Lords of the Fly-In
Yeah.
aspect to being at summer camp where even though you're not, you're kind of made to feel like you're in charge of your experience and yourself
Oh.
there, and that like adults aren't running every day of your life. Like you're kind of given those early tastes of adulthood freedom while
Yeah, that's a
someone
good
watches over
point.
you and protects you and makes sure nothing bad happens to you. Like that's
Right.
kind of, I think, a big part of the magic because you're able to feel safe while pushing your boundaries
Yeah.
and taking control.
That's such a good
Mm.
point. And it is also like you are in the woods, which is unfamiliar,
Mhm.
and yet you are
Mhm.
safe because it's this part that we've carved out, and you have one adult and then like three or four
Mhm.
teens
Yeah.
watching over you. And I worked as a teen for a while. But
Oh.
then also that so perfectly ties into what we were saying about why you love romance novels in that there is this safety to explore.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
not a lack of structure, but it's a framework to feel comfortable
Mhm.
within. Ooh,
That is such a good tie-in.
we did it. How familiar are you with Dirty Dancing, the film?
I'd have to say, like, I was honestly nodding along when you were referencing all these things because, like, I do know I'm very familiar with the referencing of that scene
Right.
because I'm a romantic comedy watcher and a sitcom enjoyer. I've obviously seen variations of the we've had the time of our life scene played out across all of those, but I don't know if I've ever actually seen it.
Then you have a real treat in store
Required
because
watching even.
absolutely. And what's fascinating about Dirty Dancing is that as much as it is about romance, it's
Mhm.
mostly about class in the same way that this book is a lot about class. So
Mhm.
Brooks automatically, there's like a little miscommunication, but automatically does not like Avery because he assumes that she is stuck up and wealthy and
Mhm.
because she is the customer and he is the employee. And
Yeah.
that is a huge part of Dirty Dancing that they really lean into a lot further. The other big thing in Dirty
Mm.
Dancing that, like, of course they would not do this in a YA novel. Patrick Swayze is in a dance partnership. He is
Mhm.
teaching, his character is like a dance teacher for the old
Got it.
ladies, and they flirt with him.
Mm.
And he and another employee are gonna perform at this big event at the end of the summer, this big
Mhm.
competition, and he'll get money and he'll get to live his life, right?
This is literally
However,
it.
exactly. However, instead of getting a concussion like in this book, the girl gets pregnant. So she,
This I feel like I vaguely
yeah,
knew.
baby, the lead girl, her
Uh-huh.
dad, I forget the actual, like the partner's name. The partner
Mhm.
tries to get an abortion and it's botched. So baby gets her dad and is like, there's a girl about to die and you're a doctor and I need you to come help her.
Oh.
So
Well.
she's recovering, so baby learns it, and then they go and do the dance together and they fall in love. I was really interested to see how they were going to turn it into a YA novel. I think I wish they
Yeah.
had like leaned into the class elements a little bit more.
Mhm.
However, I think this book will make you say, "Okay, let me go watch that movie," and then you'll get it.
Mhm.
And
Great.
if I was like in grad school, if I was still writing long essays, I would say that Dirty Dancing is maybe one of the best adaptations of Romeo and Juliet ever. Like, because it is forbidden love. But what Romeo and Juliet is about how parents manipulate the lives of children and prevent them from sort of
Mm.
understanding themselves, and the preconceptions of parents interfere with the actions of children. That's my soapbox.
Should you be a lit teacher? Like the way
Yeah.
you just broke that down was insane. You readers, listeners, you can't see it, but I made a little mind explosion thing as Erin was explaining the Dirty Dancing Romeo and Juliet parallels that I like hadn't even ever conceived of. But then I was like, you're so fucking right. Whoa.
Yeah.
Everything is so
Mhm.
referential. And like
Yes.
you don't like even what was that movie that came out a few years ago, the Sydney Sweeney Glenn Powell, Anyone But
Oh,
You,
yeah.
that was a reference to like the Taming of the Shrew or something, or another Shakespeare book or
Oh.
story or something. Like it wasn't Romeo and Juliet, but it was
Hmm.
based on like a Midsummer Dream. I don't know, something like that. But
Oh,
like
maybe. Yeah.
everything is trying to reference other things,
Yeah.
but in really cool conceptual ways. And
Yeah.
I also did really love like I love an uptown downtown romance.
Yes.
Like I think it's one of the most interesting things, and I also think it's like never not relevant to life because it's
Hmm.
something that like almost everyone experiences, except for people who date exclusively within their class. But
Right.
like almost everyone has something like that at some time where you're like, ooh, how much money this person does or doesn't have makes me
Right.
uncomfortable because I have the opposite.
Yeah.
And so it's like
Yeah.
interesting to watch kids touch on that and kids react to that and to see the way in which Brooks was so defensive, but then realize that like this isn't even this kid's money. Like this
Yeah.
is her parents' money.
Yeah.
Like it's not that's not who she is.
And Brooks has the added element of his father is sick. And so all of his money is not even going towards his life or his education, but going to his father's literal life. Which I felt like part of me felt like, okay, we're putting a little too much in there, but that's also
Yeah.
a real kid's experience, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It
that's
really is.
true.
And I praise her for including that. And it's exactly what you said. It's like life is hard and there are hardships, and yet we can still find beauty within it.
Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous. Ugh.
Oh, it was so good. I like honestly at first, like when I got this, I was like, oh, YA, am I gonna be
Yeah.
able to relate that to this at all? Just because like Not everyone has this issue, but I notice a lot of people, like, as you get older, like, you have trouble
Mhm.
relating more to books that aren't in your age range anymore, or
Yeah.
movies or TVs. But I was like, wow, it actually just like returned me to the hopefulness of like being a teenager where everything is new and everything's always changing and you're not like scared of that because that's just
Yeah.
how life is at that point. Like you don't have a moment to be scared of all the change and newness because it's so constant in your life. And so it was cool. It was cool to watch kids exploring and like finding themselves. And I was like rooting them on. And I was like thinking about, oh, and it was also nice because, like I said, some of the romance novels with like adults are a little steamier. And so it's like very cute to read something super PG that was like
Yeah.
all about glances and like knee touches. Like I love those things. Again,
Hmm.
I am a Pisces sun, Cancer moon, Leo rising. So like if my knee touches someone's knee that I'm attracted to and we're sitting next to each other, I'm like, oh my God, where's my ring? You know, I'm like, this is crazy. It's on. But it was really sweet to see like teenagers touching
Yeah.
on that and exploring that.
And when they do kiss, it's good. I thumbs
Yeah,
up. It was cute and
it
good.
was.
It
It was
was.
really cute and it was sweet. But wait,
Mhm.
there's one thing we didn't mention
Yes.
too, though, which was I did again feel like I got shot in that moment where Kai, who's Brooke's like best friend and bandmate, comes to his cabin door when Avery and Brooks are in there, and he doesn't know about them yet because again, it's foreboding. And so he's like, I won't even tell my bestest friend about it because, but even though, like, from what I remember, Brooks does know about Kai hooking up with the other counselor, which seems to
Yes.
be a looser, less violating rule
Hmm.
than like a counselor with someone who's a guest. But like, he's already keeping a secret from. It's so boy logic. I was like,
Yes.
Brooks, nothing you're saying is making sense.
Yes.
Just apologize. But
And I
he
think
like
they address that. I think he's like, I was wrong about that later on.
really quickly too. They do.
Yes.
I was like, teenagers do not admit they're wrong nonetheless this quickly, but whatever. I'm having a great time, so I'm not going to say anything. And that's such a big part of every romance novel too, where like right after the characters get together, they have like some kind of
Hmm.
stumble that causes them to either like distrust each other or kind of pull away. And so it was sweet to see them like just be able to resolve it so easily because
Yeah.
at that point you're like, too, you're just so like blinded by love kind of and so trusting and you're like, I don't really give a like this girl just had her best friend kiss her man and she's like, I'm ready. I'm ready to get
Exactly.
back in the dating pool. And I'm like, okay, good. Let's go, little Miss
Yeah.
Sunshine.
Yeah, there's I guess a degree of like throwing caution to the wind that comes with being
Mhm.
16, 17 that is really nice to revisit.
Yes. Yes. It's like fearlessness that you just like lose with age. Like you
Yeah.
go from being fearless to fearful.
Yes.
And at that point, and the fearness lends itself to bravery and being
Mhm.
unafraid to like try new things and do new things or even do dangerous things that you wouldn't do. So it's like
Yeah.
it's important for that to happen during your teenage years.
Yeah, without a doubt. I am glad that I read this. I thought it was so fun and so cute. I
Yeah.
immediately picked it up just because the cover is gorgeous.
It is very beautiful.
It's a gorgeous cover. The only other thing, did you have
Yeah.
any like really impactful, life-changing summers as a kid?
That's such a good question. I feel like the one that was really impactful for me, which this was like again just kind of goes to show how much of a nerd I was. Like the school I went to for high school was like a college prep school, so there were lots of like summer classes and activities to do before you even started high school to like meet people and stuff. And I would say like that was the most impactful summer of my life. Like just hanging out with all the other nerds slash some of them were cool kids who were really smart whose parents
Hmm.
were like forcing them to go to school early to get these things done whereas like they would probably rather be hanging out at house parties and drinking on their parents boats during the summer but it was like it felt like summer camp even though it was summer school
Yeah.
like it just
Oh.
going every day and then getting off and getting like Italian ice together and like talking about things and just having this like precursor to high school where you're going in and you're actually not knowing anybody, even if no one
Mm.
came from your grade school, like you now have these people who you get to walk in with on your first day knowing like it's cool. And plus, like, God, I'm such a fucking nerd, but like I really loved the feeling growing up of like
Yeah.
being in an emptier school. Like I loved being at
Yes.
my school when it was empty, and I loved going to high school when it was empty. And you're like running around, and you're like, there's something like I'm getting
Yes.
chills, something magical about it. I don't know what it was.
No, it's like something forbidden or different or secret
Yeah.
or special just to
Hmm.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I get
Yeah.
that.
So that was really fun. What was your impactful summer?
It was halfway through high school between sophomore and junior year. I was 15 and I did a month at NYU. They had a little summer high school program for different
What?
majors. Yeah, so I
That
did
is
like the
so cool.
Well, I did the like screenwriting one, and there were 20 of us, and we took a playwriting class and a movie writing class, and we went to Broadway shows, and it was yeah, it was fantastic. And that was the summer where I was making so many friends, and people were giving me so many compliments, and I was like your
Oh.
friends are supposed to be nice to you? What?
Oh.
That was the first time anyone was like said they had a crush on me, and I was like, what on earth? Um,
What do you mean?
Exactly. That summer really, really changed me. Yeah. And then it was hard to come
Yeah.
back and be like, what is this world? And it definitely caused
Mm.
strife with my existing friends at home because I had gone and like had these experiences and sort of
Mm.
moved further without them. Which is, I
Oh.
mean, I'm thinking now like, well, how are Avery's friends going to interact with her now that she's back?
Hmm.
And yet Casey's kind of answer that for us because she had
Yeah.
that frame narrative. Good job on that novel.
Yeah, she really did. But it is like it's scary as a teenager when you grow and change, when you're like not
Mm,
sure if other people are growing and changing with you.
yeah.
Because it is like staggered. Like it happens to all you and all your friends different. Like you said, like there's different experiences that grow that.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine. Like I good for you because I feel like I would have been insufferable if I'd gotten to do something like that. Like I would have come back to
I
school like
really
wearing a
was.
beret, like I would have always had a journal and like a pen with me. And I would have just been like, oh, calculus for high schoolers. Screenwriting is
Exactly.
where it's at, you know?
I came back swearing like a sailor. And I did have just, I kept being like, well, when I was in New York, to the point where my friends had to be like, Erin, shut up. It really caused like strife. It was bad.
Oh no, that's so funny.
But then
Oh,
like
that's
the
good.
following year, like I had my friends grow in different ways and I was angry at
Mm,
them for growing and
yep.
for their experiences. It all happens.
Yeah. Oh God. I really, really loved that analogy, or I don't even know what it was, a metaphor perhaps, that Avery's mom said about like people growing out of their boxes. And it's like
Hmm.
literally touches on what we were just kind of talking
Yeah.
about high school and how it's like often uncomfortable for the people in their lives to see them growing out of their boxes because that's how they've always known them, but that like anyone who's worth having in your life is going to come to understand like you were getting too big for that box and they wouldn't want you to stay in there anyways. Like it was just very beautifully said. And like you
Yeah.
said, like I think we said this too, like seeing kind of really emotionally mature parents as well was very different for
Hmm.
me to read, especially like a lot of my romance novels, like, a parent is often a catalyst for the main character's
Yeah.
issues. Whereas like these parents were so loving and so normal and so like level-headed about their teenagers that I was
Yeah.
like, what the hell is happening? Like, how are you guys? Did you go to therapy? Did you have kids older? Like, why and how is this
Yeah.
happening? But
Yeah.
I love that because it also made me feel like more confident in my growing and changing, even still. Like, be like, oh, it's not like a bad thing. I'm not leaving anyone behind. And anyone who
Yeah.
loves me is going to like love the person I grow and change into.
I thought that was really beautiful too. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really sweet. It was a sweet book. It was
Yeah.
almost saccharine, but it was really, really sweet.
Yeah. I felt like there were definitely moments where I was like, okay, I'm reading a young adult romance novel. We got it.
Hmm.
Okay.
For sure.
But it was like, yeah, you are. Lean into it. Have some fun. God forbid you have
Yes.
fun.
God forbid a girl has fun. Oh my goodness, I don't want us to have anything anymore.
Oh, yes. Well, would you consider it required reading?
I would. I would
Yeah.
recommend this to both adults and teenagers alike. And I
Yeah.
don't know that everyone will take away the same message, but that's kind of the beauty of reading is that we all get
Mm.
different things from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's already been stated, but definitely watch Dirty Dancing. Good
I'm
God.
going to.
Watch Dirty Dancing.
I will text you about it while I do. Honestly, I
Thank you.
might like take a little nap after this and watch it tonight.
Hell yeah, I might do the same thing.
I love that. And thank
Where,
you so much for
yeah.
having me on. This was
Oh my
so much
gosh.
fun. You are a pleasure and a delight, and I love talking books.
Thank you. Me too. Where would you like to be found if you would like people to find you?
If I'd
Where
like to
can
be
they
fun.
find you?
Yeah, I know. I was about to say good thing we're not doing this because now my full last name has been revealed. But I go by on Instagram, I'm Haley, HALEY ___ OC. And then on Twitter, I always have to take a deep breath before saying this out loud.
Hmm.
It's Milfweed, MILFWEED. And no, I don't have any kids. That's from the show Weeds. It was the weed named after Nancy Botwin. That is why I called myself Milkweed. I am a childless MILF, okay? And then if you want more of me, I also have a web series on YouTube called Brunch, a comedy web series that I did before I left Chicago like 6 years ago. And hopefully more on me in the future.
Hell yeah. And you're always welcome back to do a child, like a book you actually read as a child.
Oh, I like that. That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna end the recording.
Yay!